So we've heard a little bit about how neuroscience and the science of perception can inform the development of technology for art discovery. What I'm going to talk about now is how the study of anthropology, cultural sociology, and even the philosophy of culture can inform our development of technology for art discovery. So my name is Steffon Davis. I'm the head of product and founder of Curalytics. Curalytics is a curation analytics company, and we operate at the intersection of machine learning and culture. And I want to thank Paul for the opportunity to collaborate with and work on Art.com's data and come here to present the results of what we built and what we found with you today. So when you review the literature in social science about culture, you can find a singular theme, and that's culture is propelled forward by the process of giving meaning to the world around you and receiving meaning from the world around you. Now that's a massive framework, right? That includes everything from what we see and hear and touch and say, right? But to make it really concrete, if we were to give meaning to the world around us, it's as simple as sipping from our coffee and saying, oh, that's pretty good. Or listening to a song and having the lyrics mean something. That could be an example of receiving meaning from the world around you. Now, in the art world in particular, this process of culture is driven forward heavily by curators. They're the ones doing the heavy lifting of searching through art, filtering, sorting, arranging, rearranging, contextualizing, interpreting, reinterpreting, and taking their findings of what they're excited about, this idea that they have a passion for, and exposing it to audiences of people that share that perspective, bridging the gap between artists that are making the art and the audiences that enjoy the art, and essentially doing the work of constructing an ecosystem of art discovery. That job doesn't happen in isolation. You can't build culture alone. So, Art.com has curators. You can curate galleries on Art.com. And we took a look at how galleries were being curated, and in general, it's being used as a personal tool, right? I found some things I liked, I can go back to where I bookmarked it, and it's a personal reference for me. In a sense, it's curators working alone. So we asked ourselves, how can we use technology, right, to generate systems of shared meaning, to put this system into process for an art world that exists digitally? So we started with the galleries themselves. And we realized there was an opportunity for somebody who was curating on their own to introduce them to someone else who may be curating in the same way, to put together that cultural fabric that may have happened in real life, but to put it together in a digital space. So what we're looking at right now is an animation of the machine learning process. Each white dot represents a curated gallery of art. And, computers, one thing they're incredibly good at, they're not good at knowing what art means, but they're incredibly good at counting and comparing and looking at large amounts of data and making comparisons out of that. So we took the curated galleries and we essentially identified curators that curated similarly, right? We constructed taste groups of like-minded curators. Something that curators would normally do, but when you're trying to assess millions of galleries, you could never do on your own, right? And that's something a machine can actually do for them. So we brought them together into taste groups, and once we've identified like-minded curators, we then have the opportunity to introduce them to each other, to take an item that was most recently curated from your like-minded peer and introduce it to you. And to essentially start building the scaffolding from which a internet first culture can grow. Once you have curators in community, there's a lot of interesting opportunities you can do. Like, for example, we observe if I'm curating something and people are really liking it after me, we can identify that that person is a very skilled curator, right? We can prioritize their addition over someone else's. So when you see the pyramid, it's a reflection that computers are actually pretty useful at this coordinating function, at being an invisible hand to make the kind of connections we'd like to make ourselves, but don't have the time to look at everything. This is a visualization of the curation analytics technology over time using real gallery data. And what we can see, you see the dots appearing, these are galleries that are being recently curated, and then the curation analytics takes hold and introduces that gallery to its taste group, to its group of like-minded curators on that gallery's behalf. If this seems to resemble a neural network or perhaps molecules or biology growing, it's because in a sense it is. What we're looking at is the network of connections of a art world, a world of art unto itself, of shared meanings. Every one of those dots was its own universe of taste. What we're looking at now is inside one of those taste groups, inside one of those universes. This selection of art is what this group of curators curated in common. They don't know each other, they're not friends, but what they have is a shared aesthetic. And before the taste groups were constructed, they didn't know each other existed. It's really interesting to see how words often fail the description of one's taste, because we can see what people are labeling these groups. Like there's labels like family room and bedroom and ideas. But when we look at the idea that all these people arrived at, we can definitely see it's sultry, it's warm. It is something you might want to have in your living room, but it's a very specific aesthetic. Let's look at another one. So again, this is a group of curators, independently of each other, and they arrived at this passion for horse illustrations, right? Kind of a sense of movement and kind of majesty, right? There's some dogs in there. And here's another taste group that came together along this aesthetic of whimsical nature, right? It's hard to even describe exactly all the difference, and there's thousands of these to browse, but when you see it, you can say, oh yeah, like that might not be my taste, but I could see how someone would want to live there. Someone would want to visit their taste group and see what was new. So we were looking at the small level, we were looking inside individual taste groups, but if we zoom out, we can see Arc.com's taste map. This is their universe of taste, and you can travel from curated gallery to the taste group that binds them together to another curated gallery that's somewhat similar to another, and you can travel around this map of taste. The coloring reflects countries within this continent, and the individual peninsulas and structures are groups of people that really have a unique perspective. They're doing something that maybe the group over here wouldn't care about at all, but they're able to propel their idea forward, and in a sense it's kind of exploding out in an entirely unique subculture of their own. So I'm very glad to share this window into curation analytics with you, and hope to introduce you to your taste group someday soon. Thanks.